By way of a narrative background update, so last week I'm going to try to make this to the best of my ability a weekly show, a weekly offering every Monday. I'm going to publish another episode until I've run out of material. I've already collected a good bit of material and I have ongoing projects as well that I'm filming. So I'm going to try to make it a weekly thing throughout the season. So we got it launched and it's great. I know it's going to take time to build. I'm still getting into the social media and the Facebook pages and YouTube and all of that. I really have not spent a lot of time with it before. Again, I've used YouTube a lot, but it's always been as a consumer looking up, segments on how to remove stuff, how to replace things. In terms of the way that I'm orienting the show and my goals for the show, uh, you know, I've thought at length about should I just shoot the segments and just have them without any introduction, just the segments themselves. What I want this show to be distinguished for is that it's not just the segments of disassembling and so forth. There's a lot of, and nothing against it, they're great folks. I've learned a great deal because of these kind of videos where somebody's doing something and they just grab a camera or their phone and shoot what they're doing. A lot of those videos you can't hardly see what's going on, and you can't hear what they're saying. You're not sure what tools you're supposed to use, or and so forth. And I've still got a lot of ground to cover as well. And this is not perfect. The videos I'm shooting aren't perfect because of the nature of it. You're in the operation itself. It's not really something that you want to reshoot if you get a bad shot. So it has that reality element to it. So there is going to be a learning curve for me and the quality of the productions as they go forward. I'm just trying to stay positive. Where we actually have Irma coming down on us, at least the outer bands. It's funny, this is, September 11th. It's my wife's birthday as well, which is awesome and actually makes it easy for me to remember because I'm terrible with birthdays. But we're up in the North Georgia mountains, so we're just getting, rainfall, but everything's closed. The school's closed, the college is closed. So our kids are home, my wife's home, and everybody's taking a rain day. I'm real glad that everybody seems to be good in Florida. All the people I know that stayed down there are safe. Uh, it it slowed down before it made landfall and kind of wore itself out going up the central corridor of Florida. So that's all great news in the background. But still nothing really moving in my life. The couple of things that have been happening is that I am in contact with the local town, the city mayor, about renting out. There's an old firehouse which is now just empty. It's just filled with storage stuff for the city. But it's right there on the highway. It's right on the main drag, and it's just been empty for years. And it's going to be demolished when they put in a bypass around the town. So I have inquired with the mayor about whether we might be able to rent that facility out, hopefully on the cheap in the interim, because nobody's going to want to buy it for long term, but I wouldn't mind renting it out, even if it's just for a few months, to try to get my feet somewhere, to try to get a shop going. It would make things a lot easier to do if I'm in a basically sterile shop setting rather than being in the yard where you're on angles. We live in the mountains, so everything that I've got out there is on an angle. There's really no flat spot in our whole parking area. So it'd be great to have a shop, be able to coordinate all of my tools, get everything set up. It would just make stuff so much quicker. Potentially, if I could get a good deal on one, get a lift system. Oh, it would be epic. So that's going on. I've also applied to. There's a Mercedes training facility in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, that has an automotive tech degree program that you have on-site training at their plant and dealerships. It's a 2-year program with job while you're working, and it's starting out partial tuition reimbursement. So I've started that application process as well. I really love Mercedes cars, and I tried to emphasize in my application, the group of cars that I have out there. So that's, I'll be interested to see if I get a call back for that. There's a rather extensive, there's a training day assessment where you go down to the facility for an entire day as a group, all the applicants that they're considering, and you get assessed. If you pass that, then you get a call back for a one-on-one interview, and at that point you can get hired because you're getting hired as well as accepted into the program. So all that's going on in the background, so I'll be making updates as we move forward on that as well. So for today's projects, we're going to start with a real quick and easy one. That is, we are going to put the hood lifts into the 528E. As a tuner car that I'm restoring, I'm going to have the hood open a lot, and I want it to stay open and not clunk me in the head or have to stick it up with a piece of wood. It's a real easy operation. It'll just take a couple minutes to do, so that's a very easy intro to the 528. Then we're also going to work on the 528 with the no-run situation or the bad idle stalling situation and diagnose the MAF, the mass airflow sensor, and show how it's a very easy diagnosis. You don't even have to use a multimeter or anything, so you just pop it off and see if it runs better. And that's a real quick and easy way. You can't leave it disabled. It's not going to run right, but it won't stall out. And so after diagnosing that, which we're also going to, in the process of doing that, we're going to replace the intake boot, which was all rotted and leaky. So that's a real easy aspect that you can easily do while you're working on the MAF. Just takes a couple extra retainer bolts to get that off. And so we'll be replacing the mass airflow sensor, the intake boot, the hood lifts on the 528, and then on the 740, the big Beamer, we are going to be replacing the tail lights, which is also a very easy operation, only takes a few minutes, and I would recommend for 740 owners out there to go ahead and do this regardless of if you're replacing them or not, because it's an easy disassembly and there's a lot of gunk that gets easily built up back there. In fact, this fixed for me a water situation where it would accumulate under heavy rain, a little bit of water in the trunk and the battery area over the passenger rear tire. And so after putting the new tail lights in, I cleaned everything out, got all the gunk out of there, and I went ahead and used a little bit of sealer so that the water would run around the lights rather than going around their casing. But real easy operation, only takes a few minutes as well. So a lot of good wins this week, particularly after the first show. We kind of set the tone low. I guess we can only get better from there with all of our fails. So we got some wins this time. I hope you enjoy it. For today's project of putting the hood lifts on, it's a very easy operation. All you need is a flat blade screwdriver. It takes approximately 10 minutes. I'd say maybe about 5 minutes a piece for the two hood lifts, so you don't have to really disassemble anything. It's super simple. This will be among the easiest jobs that you can do, which with a nice reward, you get your hood staying open. Make sure you keep track of those retainer clips after you move them. They're small but vital. And test the new pistons when you put them on there. Make sure that you can't collapse them under hand strength.
Alright, so we are replacing this E28. These are definitely original. Yep, 1987 this was made, 1987. So these are original. As you can see, it's completely collapsed. It has absolutely no pressure. This didn't hold the hood up at all. We've already got one installed here, and I'm going to show you the other one. It is very, very easy to do. I always like to hit everything with a little PV blaster. It's a good thing for pretty much all connections. So this style, again, this is an 88 E28, and you just pop these little tabs off. And a little tricky, but nothing terribly hard. You just, don't get carried away. Just take your time, pop them off. You pop off pretty easily. Okay. Nothing super fancy or spectacular there. Same thing here. You might have to spin it around a little bit so that you can get purchase on it, and so you can get up in there and take it off. This one's a little tighter just because of the peripherals around it. And there's our two clips. Now, you don't have to take the hood off or anything for this. You literally just pop it off. Boom. See, this is one of those jobs that mechanics really shouldn't even charge for. It's so easy to do. So you see this lift is just totally dead. No resistance whatsoever. So we are going to pop this one in there. This one, you know, a good core, a good gas support, like it's not moving at all, right? It won't even let me try here. So we've got to arrange them. You see it's not quite straight on, so you need them in line with one another. Just a couple of screwdrivers will do you for that. Just get straightened out so they line up. And pop it in. That's pretty much it. You might have to raise up the hood just a little bit, give you that little extra bit of wiggle room, and that is really all there is to it. And then you just have to pop these guys back on there, which is very, very easy. Very good mounting device. This is a good system. Very pleased with the design of this. Some of these, you know, some gas supports take a little more work than others. This one, pretty straightforward and not hard. Total job time, 10 minutes at most. And now, no more of the stick. Goodbye, stick. Until another day, another car needs it. But there we go, we've got that at least.
For our mass airflow sensor replacement, another very easy operation. I'd give it about a 2 out of 10. Not real bad, about an hour's worth of work, all said and done. You know, as usual, take your time, but there's nothing tricky here. You'll just need your typical metric sizes. 10 is almost, you know, the key to all of the German cars. 10 millimeters, your number one go-to. 8, 10, 13, 17, 19 are just about the only things you'll find on German cars, generally speaking. Here's no different. A few points going into this. I make sure that you check the rubber on the intake boot. Replace it if it's bad. We're going to be replacing the intake boot as we go here. The mass airflow sensor itself is easily tested. All you have to do is detach the plug and see the symptom here being that it is rough idling and stalling. With the MAF off, it shouldn't stall if it is the MAF that's causing it. Now, you can't drive it in that condition. You can limp it home if you're stuck somewhere and this happens to you, but you need to replace the MAF if it is bad. I got a used MAF, a good working one, but used off of eBay for a fraction of the price of putting a new one in, and I'd highly recommend using OEM, either a used one or a new one. Don't go aftermarket on German cars, just take my word for it. Make sure you clean out the air box while you're in there and grease everything as you go, all plastic and rubber parts. This helps to create a moisture barrier and add life to them.
Alright, so here we are looking at the 88 E28E BMW with the 2.7 liter straight six. Here we have very easy operation. This is the intake boot. This is where you have your air box, which this one is missing. There should be a funneling mechanism right here, which I have on order. It's through your air box, mass airflow sensor, which I have currently unplugged because I've been testing diagnostic on it, and sure enough, it runs the idle improves with the mass airflow sensor off. It doesn't stall out, so that's definitely our culprit. But we also have a very leaky intake system, which also contributes to loss of power, fluctuating idle, that sort of thing. You can see right here, in this intake boot, thing is just absolutely worn away and shot. So, very easy operation. You're just simply going to pop this out right here. This is just held in there. There's no clamps or anything. You can see also this boot is just cracked and weathered. Every point there it's cracked, and then you just simply remove these two and pop it off, and this is the boot that we're going to be putting on it. Nice new well oiled rubber. It's an aftermarket, but it's a good quality one. So we're going to be plopping that in there. Just takes a few minutes, very easy operation. Alright, so just a couple minutes and we've got this nice new boot on there. Push this in a little bit more to seat that. Make sure you reseat everything. And we got our two connectors all oiled up and tightened down. So we have here a mass airflow sensor that I ordered online. I got a used one, made sure it matched the same number, but used. You know, you want to get it from somebody that offers a warranty, and they, you know, say they have tested the parts, they're working, they're good. This thing was super, super crusty. I'm still in the process of cleaning it out, but like this release plate there was just absolutely black, totally crusted through. All of this metal, everything was super, super gunked up. So, real easy to get out. This is right here, see, on the top of the, oops, I got it turned around there, but yeah, right there, see, intake there, and this just bolts onto the box there. It's going to be a very easy disassembly. Pop off your MAF connector, which I've already done, because easiest way to check a MAF, the symptoms are that generally speaking it will start, but it will rough idle and die. And if you pull the sensor, this is generally true of older cars at least, I know it's the same on our '01 Audi A4, this is where I learned this trick because it had a MAF die, and you pull the sensor, see if it'll run. Usually, if it is the MAF, it's easy to confirm because you pop that off and it will run, it'll idle, it won't stall out. I wouldn't recommend leaving it off because it's going to screw with your computer. It's not going to run right. It's going to be wonky with your throttle. So it's not a permanent solution, but if it's going to try to strand you somewhere, you can pop that off and limp home and then replace it. A new one of these is $300 plus. I got this one for about 70 on eBay. Came with all the peripherals and everything on it. This is the actual sensor bit there. This is the part that matters the most. I've been cleaning everything out with a combination of carburetor air intake cleaner for the housing and electronic parts cleaner. You can get specialty just for mass airflow. I might even have a can sitting around somewhere, but the important thing is you have one of these electrical connector for mass airflow, because it doesn't leave residue. That's the important thing. It'll dissolve clean. And so I'm going to clean this out a little bit more and then pop off our intake. Just takes a few minutes, and we'll be back for the assembly. Alright, so we have our airbox removed here, and here we have it. The top and bottom assemblies, you see the mass airflow sensor here is just bolted on. You have to the side, and then the four little ones inside. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the big one on the side. I'm not sure why that's got that huge bolt, unless there was some sort of peripheral that attaches to this in whatever car that came out of. But anyway, so it's just going to be a matter of popping these guys off here, and this is retained on there by these two bolts that slide down into those little U holders. You can see I've already got this cleaned out really nice. I put in nice new K&N air filter, big fan of theirs. So there we have our four interior bolts, all of this looking very nice. Probably won't even need these on here. My guess is probably a 10 millimeter. That is the way of things. These cars, German cars, usually one of just a few sizes. Let's see, that's a little tight. Let's see if this comes off. There we go. So since this is protected from the elements, all these are coming off very, very easily. All those are broke free now, so pop those off. Pop this guy off here, which is a 13, another go-to. Typically on German cars it's going to be 8, 10, 13, 17. You can do most of your stuff with just those sizes. So we're going to take the old airflow sensor off, put our new one on now. Alright, so we have reassembled everything. We've got the air box back on, and the two brackets here and here would hold that in place. And we've got that back on, which just takes flathead to tighten. And then, of course, the clip, which just about got away from me. Gotta watch out for those clips, they like to jump. Pop that back on there and lock them in, and we'll grab the keys and see what's happening. Here is, in every repair job, the moment of truth. I know. Yes. Yes. We have liftoff. Oh, yes. Woo. That's my cheerleading squad. Woo. Oh, yeah.
For our last project of today's episode, we're going to be doing a taillight replacement on our 1998 BMW 740iL, the E38 chassis. Very easy job once again. This is going to require the use of a socket set, metric sizes, particularly 10 millimeter. It is a very easy job, only requiring about 30 minutes. Each taillight is held on by about 4 bolts, and very easy to get out, very easy to disconnect. It's not hard at all. I'd give it only about a 2 out of 10. Nothing tricky. I mean, the only thing you want to be careful about is when you are removing the old plugs. You want to just be very careful in handling the electronics, but other than that, very, very easy and straightforward. Make sure that you are cleaning out behind there. In fact, this is a good job even if you're not replacing them, because you can get a lot of gunk and then have drainage issues. It's very straightforward. Make sure you are using electrical parts cleaner on the connectors as you go, and consider sealing everything with gasket sealer as I do in the episode.
Alright, today we are going to be working on getting a new set of taillights in this 98 740iL BMW. This is the E38 chassis. You can see I've already pulled back the carpet mounting here. The carpet's very easy to get back. This has a hole right there, pops out real easy. This side, a little bit more, you see this. This is the magnet which keeps this up, so you pop this out, and then you have to carefully feed that around the magnet, and then the whole piece just pops straight out. Very easy. Go ahead and get that out of the way. Alright, so the situation we have here is non-working taillights. The middle taillight works, but neither of those two side taillights work, and I've tried changing both the bulbs and these connectors where the bulbs plug into, and I confirmed with the previous owner. I asked him if he had messed with it at all, and he said that the circuit boards in the brake lights have failed. Somewhat typical. These German cars have great mechanical, they're very precise engineering and so forth, but they tend to have some wonky electronics. Usually this kind of peripheral stuff is the biggest problem with German cars. They have a great drivetrain, but no taillights, and so that's the situation we have here. So you have a big plug connector right there, and you know, this is an old one, so if you're working on an E38, it's an old car, give it some time. This, you pinch the sides, see, different connectors connect differently. This one you pinch the sides and pull out. Make sure you never pull by the wires, because you can stress the connectors in there, give you all sorts of wonky stuff. So what we're going to do first is get out our tail light here, and I would like to, before I go through the trouble of actually installing it, alright, so here is our right tail light. This is a aftermarket piece, but because these cars are in high demand. That's one of the nice things if you find one of these, is that people want them, they want to keep them, they want to tune on them. And when you have a car model like that, then you get a lot of good aftermarket stuff. So here we have the back here. You can see this has got a nice foam padding, so forth. And here's our connector here. Nice new connector. All right. And we got to make sure we line up here. Sure enough, it's got a groove. This is typical German engineering. They always put a groove on one side where they, in this case, have 4 grooves and a rounded beveled edge to make sure that you cannot put this in wrong. So we'll get that nice and snug on there. Again, this is just a test at this point. I'm going to take the battery off, but the first thing I want to do is see if this will light up when I hit the brakes. Okay, so I will need, you can either get an assistant, or in our case we will take a piece of concrete and a little board here, put it on the brake to give it some pressure, and put the key in so we are getting a brake signal coming through. Whoop. There we go. Doesn't have to be all the way down, just need a little signal, need some pressure on the brake, and I'll be able to make sure that the brake light is on. Yep, sure enough, look at there. We have functioning brake light. So we are good to go here. And again, that was just a confirmation to make sure that the brake was functioning, that it wasn't the wiring harness to the brake, but rather the actual brake itself. So now that we have confirmed that theory, I don't feel the need to do it on both sides. Going to go ahead and attach this again. Again, that was just a brief little test to make sure that everything is working right. And nice new connectors. Now I'm here real snug. Again, you want to take your time. If you need to, get a flathead, work it in there real careful like though. You don't want to put a lot of stress on these old parts. They are plastic fittings. All right. Okay, so we're going to get this out of the way for the moment. And now I'm going to go ahead and take the battery off. This is just a general point of safety. Where'd I put my picture? General point of safety is I like to do it whenever I do literally any job that involves connectors or anything. Even if it's not directly involving connectors, I will still usually, when I do any job whatsoever on a vehicle, first thing I do is take this off, with rare exceptions. Okay, so we've got our battery cable off. We tested, made sure it is the light, it is the paneling. You can see even a little bit of black and soldering there, so I expect it's probably going to be somewhat of a horror show when we get in there. Okay, so you've got these mounting points, okay, so these are 8mm, and then you've got 2 10mm. You can always, if it gets any resistance whatsoever, I usually hit it with just a little spritz of PB Blaster. Last thing you want to do when you have a chassis mount bolt is strip it. Of course, these are pass-through bolts from the back. This looks like a ground point. Ground points as you're working on your car. Try to find those ground points and clean them whenever you can find them. A lot of electrical gremlins, people chase ghosts in the system. All it is a crusty ground point. So there's our multi-ground. Drop it down over there. And sure enough, there's some corrosion on there, not a whole lot. all contained back here without moisture, but it is a chassis ground point. Okay. And we got one more hiding back here in the corner. Getting loose. Alright. Sure not missing anything. Looks like we're good to go here. A little crusty. Seal coming up there. Actually, while I got this off, clean this out. I'll just try to clean everything as I go. Actually not a bad idea to take out every now and again because it only takes a couple minutes. And this is super crusty under here. A lot of buildup coming around that light. The problem with buildup like this, let's see here. Problem with buildup like this is it gums up your drainage. This isn't terrible, I've seen worse, but water that's trying to come around here soaks into this. You can actually, if it gets too much, it'll rise up, start coming into the compartment and so forth. So, while you're in there, best to go ahead and grab that. I'm just using a little bit of my detailer spray, which is a combination of McGuire detailer concentrate and some vinegar, white vinegar, and water. And that is great for detailing. It's great for this sort of stuff, dissolving, where you're just trying to get it nice and down, nice and clean. It's not a heavy smell. You can also use it interior. Really good stuff. Alright, so all these little cracks and crevices here. Alright, and that will make sure that we keep a nice dry surface. And water will flow through it easily. Alright, now the installation is just simply putting it back on, lining up your bolts. One thing I did notice a little bit different, but actually nice, is that this has a connector piece there, and it's, rather than being on a static board, it's a line, so a little bit easier to get to, but it's going to go through there. Otherwise, pretty straightforward. Pop it back in there, and you're ready to rock. Alright, so update here. We have gotten the new headlight, or tail light, in there. All I got to do is just pop the connector back in, so we're all good to go there. I'm going to put a little dielectric grease and hit that multi-pin ground point there with some sandpaper, clean it, contact dielectric grease, keeps it from rusting and corroding. Alright, we've already opened up over here, so you can see our setup, very similar, just a little bit different. You don't have to worry about this. This is just kind of peripheral passing through, but there's our connector. Again, just wiggled on it a little bit, popped out after a moment, slightly corroded, so I'm also going to hit the connectors themselves with electrical parts cleaner, which is made specifically for electrical connectors and so forth. It'll dissolve grease and corrosion, but then it won't leave residue, so really excellent stuff, and it's high pressure in a rattle can, so it will blow stuff out. But so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of those 8mm bolts, and it'll pop right out just like the other one, and we'll be set to go. Now one thing I did notice here is, and you see in the original one, it's got this crevice there. The aftermarket one is actually a little bit closer, but also more flimsy. I'm going to come back with some sealer of some kind. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to use to try to seal that in so that the water will be directed out and about and around it, and you won't get that crust layer behind it as we did with the original one here. Alright, so I've got the second tail light out, just as easy as the first one. Slightly different carpet trim to get out. It's just backwards, but look at all of that crap that fell out of there. It's just a whole bunch of crap. So any E38 owners out there that are watching this, whether or not you actually need to replace your tail lights, I would recommend taking them out and cleaning that crap out. Oh, it's gooey and wet. It hasn't rained for days, and yet all this is moist. Gross. Alright, so once I get this cleaned up, I'm going to get everything reassembled, and we will be done. Total job time, well under an hour, probably 30 minutes or less even, depending on how quick you do it. Alright, so the operation is complete, and all three of the tail lights are now working. And for $100 and a half hour of my time, this car now has functioning brake lights. And it went up a notch in style because the smoke of the taillights, the aftermarket taillights, very crisp and clean looking, much nicer than the old faded, busted taillights it had on it. So one step closer to this being a show.
For this week's car profile, we're going to be looking at the 1988 BMW 528e. That is an E28 5 Series chassis. These were made from 1981 to 1988. So this is on the very tail end of that series. It's a really classic car. When you're searching for parts for it, try searching for the E28. This will cover all of the various cars made under this chassis. This has the 2.7 liter M20 engine, straight inline six. Really awesome engine, really great condition car. This is not the fastest car. It's 127 horsepower, but very torquey, 177 pounds of torque for a very lightweight car, and has the manual transmission in it, so you feel it a lot more. Really ultimately a great car. Again, it's very light, only 3,100 pounds, real lightweight on its feet, very agile for being a rather small car with a lot of interior space and a nice big trunk. Overall, just a fantastic car, and I'm hoping to make it a show car for my restoration business.
Alright, for our first car profile, we're going to be taking a look at this 1988 BMW 528e. It is in a 5-speed transmission, and it is lock silver. It is practically a one-owner car. It was a older gentleman who had it for almost in its entire life, just over in North Carolina, and he sold it to a friend of his a few years ago, who was the grandfather of a family, and he got it, drove it for a little bit, and this was about 4 years ago, I believe, 4 or 5 years ago. They didn't put hardly any miles on it, really didn't drive it. I think the idea was for a kind of first car for the grandson. So they tinkered on it, but just really didn't get very far with it. It's got some electrical issues, you know, big surprise. 80s German car has electrical issues, but mechanically, in really excellent condition, especially physically, it's just in such excellent condition. Put a new set of tires on it. The old ones were pretty gone. I've been just polishing and so forth, but let me walk you through what I've done. So far, I disabled the, this will be one of the segments, I disabled the latch for the hood because it kept getting stuck. And I'll give you my opinion as to why it gets stuck. So I've got this linchpin in. Presently, I have not finished this segment because I'm waiting on a set of pins. So this is just a custom-made pin that I just used out of an old 944 bolt that I had from a box of bolts, and you can see what I've got here. I put the spring there to give some tension so the hood won't rattle. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm utilizing the original system. You can see over here, this right here is when you're pulling on the latch. That's what you're trying to do anyway, is to pull this back, this assembly here, but it just was not working. I'll tell you the reason why is you'll notice because of the various angles that we have going on here, this, where originally this had the piece with the spring and the notch on the bottom that then would go down into the hole, it's just slightly at an angle, maybe 2 to 3 degrees, not much, but it is not perfectly up and down, right? It's bowed out just a little bit, and I think because of that, when it goes in, it would go in at a slight angle and then catch. And so I think that's the problem engineering-wise, but it's a horrible situation to run into. Some other BMW models, I believe, if what I read online is correct, the E30 has a way that you can get in through here and turn an Allen wrench to pop the hood open, but this, an E28, does not have that kind of release, and on 3 separate occasions the car tried to not let me in there to work on it. So and it's a really, literally spent hours just fussing and cussing at it to just let me pop the hood, and the latch ended up breaking. I tried tuning the system, tensioning it, and everything. It's a bad mechanism. So we are replacing it with that racing style pin. Of course, right now, again, I've just got this bolt in there that I drilled out and got washers and everything behind it to get it the right distance. A couple other things we've done here so far. We put in a K&N air filter, replaced this intake tube which was missing, replaced the alternator there, which is still in process. It's working fine now, but it is not in there correctly. I mean, it's functional as it is, but done a segment on that as well, filmed a segment on the alternator and the wacky situation that it had. I've put on a new MAF, mass airflow sensor, and replaced the intake boot right here. Cleaned out this other sensor. I've been cleaning everything as I go with electrical parts cleaner, WD-40, and so forth as needed. We put in a new gasket on the intake there and put in a new throttle position sensor, which you can't see on the top of, because it's on the bottom, directly opposite there, the throttle. This is your mechanical throttle right here. We have put in a new set of spark plugs, and those are going great, and new spark plug wires. And 2 of the wires did not have boots when I bought the car. They were original wires labeled West Germany, and so we've replaced that. This is actually, amazingly, still the original, the trunk line. They call that a loom, and amazing quality of build. So that's where we're at with this one in terms of what we've done so far. I've also replaced all the fuses here, which are easy to get to. I've got a couple relays on order. This was the wrong relay here, the high beam relay. I noticed one good thing you can do to check if you have a shorted fuse with the car off and the key off and everything, just touch the, not the fuses, excuse me, the relays, these little boxes. Just touch those with your finger, and what I noticed is that this one here, which I've got off, and I just set in there, this one, which was in that position, and thanks to the guide here on this top, it is the high beam relay. I know that. Well, the issue is that it's got the right terminals and configuration, but it's not actually the right relay. So you can actually hear it click if you take it out and then you slowly push it in until it connects. You can hear it click on. So it's shorting out where it's getting power when it shouldn't. So that's an easy fix. I've got what I believe to be the right relay coming for that one. And so that's pretty much where we're at on this car. I'm just trying to go through the systems and get it in good shape. And but physically and mechanically, it's in great shape. I'm going to continue tuning on it. I'm going to take the intake system apart and put all new gaskets and so forth to try, and the injectors, same thing. New gaskets and seals on the injectors. That's the plan. So really absolutely fantastic car. The main issue that I'll be trying to solve next is that the instrument panel just doesn't do anything. And I've had to disconnect the this is for the hazard warning system. It's the relay right here. I've had to pop that one out because after I got the new alternator properly installed, the moment you hook a battery to it, it started blaring an alarm. I'm not sure what sensor or whatever that is. It might be something to do with the radio anti-theft system, which it comes up code, and the previous owner lost that code, so we don't have access to that. I'm working on tracking down how to figure that out, because we would like to re-enable the radio. As you can see, the car is in just about perfect condition, physically speaking. Very, very little, by the way, of blemish. There's no cracks or weathering in any of this. The steering wheel is well taken care of. You can tell that this was garaged, very well kept. About the only interior damage is this little bit of fraying right here, which I'm going to have to decide what to do patch-wise to take care of that. But very little interior. The headliner is still good and strong. Everything is as it should be, where it should be, pretty well. Just very minor this and that I need to take care of in here. But overall, really complete car, and just had a really good deal. We were able to trade a 2003 Volkswagen Passat V6 GLX, which is a very nice car. I mean, there's nothing against it. It was a great car, but a BMW straight six from the 80s with a manual transmission has always been on my bucket list, and this is a really, really exemplary example of the breed. Really, really an excellent car, well put together, and just has some weird issues, a lot of which I think are traced to the former owner putting in things improperly, but really excellent.
Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all the blessings that you bestow upon us. We thank you for the successes that we've had. We thank you for the endurance that you give us to make it through the failures. I ask that you open eyes and open hearts and bring people together in your love and light and grace and providence. I ask that you guide me and my family. I ask that you guide my viewers through whatever hardships they might be going through. In Christ's precious name I pray. Amen.